Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome to GDC. My name is Lawrence Sumet. I'm a product manager at Autodesk. I'm based in Toronto. Is everybody having a good show so far? Good. It's about to get a little better. Autodesk and Unity. So we're going to talk about the relationship between Autodesk and Unity and the work we've been doing and generally some of the problems that we see you facing every day. What we love is we get to go out and talk to customers that do some awesome work. And so these are some examples of customers who use Autodesk products and the Unity game engine to do some beautiful work. But we know it's not about the software. The software is ultimately irrelevant. It's about the teams, the developers, the artists, the vision to make the games. But one of the challenges we heard over and over and over again when we talked to these customers was the challenge of getting the data from the DCC into the game engine. Too many presets, too many settings, too many points of failure, and this was making people sad. Does that sound about right? Yeah? Yeah. And Autodesk, we apologize for the troubles you've been having, and so we want to help improve this. So our goal here is ultimately to give better support for interactive workflows, not by competing with them, but by working with all the apps that you use in the ecosystem every day to make games. To start off this effort, we formed an agreement with Unity that was announced back in Unite of 2017 at Austin. And the Unity keynote, and the goal was to have better round-trip workflows between Max, Maya, and Unity through FBX, improving FBX along the way. So the goals we set out to achieve was one, to allow you to use the best app and workflow for the job. So what I love here is it's really not about everything going into Maya or everything going into Unity. It's about allowing the data to move freely in an effective way. And to be effective, we heard from many people that the more and more you're collaborating. Some of you might be making a game on your own laptop, but many of you are working in a team. You're working across the globe. And not everybody has the resources to build a data management pipeline like a larger studio. So if we do this right, our hope is that you can just focus on making games and we won't have to have this conversation. So my hope is next year we won't have this presentation because it'll just be a non-issue. But we still have some work to do to get there, obviously. So there are also many companies that are working to solve this problem now. And so I'd like to introduce Nenad Nesovic from Nordeus Games to the stage to talk about how they're solving this problem now. And then after that, we're going to get into what we're doing to help out as well. So if everybody could give a clap and introduce Nenad to the stage. Thank you, sir.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nenad Nesovic. I'm a 3D artist from Nordeus. It's a gaming company from Belgrade, Serbia. And it's a company mostly known for its football manager game, which is the most popular and widely played sports game on mobile phones. And our second game is called Spell Souls. It's currently in a soft launch phase. It will be launched fairly soon. And we are a crew of 166 people, 20 nationalities, and we were founded in 2010. So, I'm here to present you our challenges and stuff that we did for Unite 2017 keynote demo. It will be published, I think it's already published on a Unity Asset Store for free, so you can try it out. This is our pipeline. This is them. So yeah. And at this point, your demo becomes fully interactive, and players can cast spells and destroy bunch of units on screen. So, our demo goals were, of course, to showcase latest Unity engine features, basically their new job system, which allows us to utilize 100,000 units or so on screen without overloading the CPU. And to showcase our programmers' expertise. Of course, they work together alongside with Unity devs on implementing all that stuff into this demo. And of course, showcasing the art. We use this demo to showcase our latest game and art from Spell Souls. So, this is the team. We gathered up a small team from all our projects inside of Nordius. And of course, we worked with Unity guys as well. So basically 4 programmers, 2 tech guys, 4 VFX artists, and 2 environment artists, including me, art director and the producer. So we were aware of challenges that we are facing. Of course, one of the challenges was a strict time frame. We had around 4 weeks to wrap up the demo. The second challenge was in environment. Since we are doing mobile game, we didn't have any environment that can accommodate 100,000 units. And well, the biggest environment that we had was suitable for around 20, and of course for mobile. Then characters. Of course, our characters are made for mobile and 1 camera angle. And of course, cameras. In-house, we didn't have much expertise with doing camera work, extensive camera work. So we were aware that we were facing that challenge as well. And yeah, that's the stuff that we had to solve in the really tight time schedule. So animations, we had already animated characters, but their animations weren't suitable at all for this demo, so we had to rework all of them. Characters, of course, models are optimized for mobile. We had a bunch of issues with their animations, bone counts, and of course, missing a bunch of polygons on the back sides, of course. So the meshes weren't correct as well. Cameras, well, we didn't had any time to experiment with the awesome tool that already has been implemented inside of Unity. Of course, I mean on Cinemachine. We didn't have time to experiment with it, so we hired the external cinematographer, which was proficient in Maya. So we had to switch our tools and workflows exclusively for Maya. And of course, the environment we need to redo completely create a new environment from ground up exclusively for this demo. And yeah, well, this is how it goes with characters and animations. This is like idealized, typical waterfall pipeline when you do characters. Most of you are aware of it. So you have a 3D model, then you attach a rig to it. It's usually sent to tech guys, which take care of that. Then you send that to animators, and then you import stuff inside of Unity. But in reality, that's not how stuff are actually going. So we had a bit more complex situation, which is usually normal when you create actual stuff for games and basically any other project as well. So stuff are really doing in serial way. You have to do a lot of stuff in parallel. And then comes the flexibility of the software at play. So we had to create character models, manipulate character models, change them. Then same for rigs, animations, and environment assets. And while assembling level, we had to do cameras as well, which were closely related to stuff in the environment. And everything needs to be sent in Unity and back to Maya as well. So we relied on Maya's default referencing solutions for collaborative workflows. It works really nice, so we started with that. So basically, we have what we call a rig file. Rig file is usually a 3D model with attached rig to it, and basically controllers, animation stuff to it. And then you can reference the same file throughout other Maya scenes. So any artist that can manipulate the same file, it gets distributed throughout the whole Maya scenes. So everybody has the same file and everybody can work on the same file, and it updates automatically. So we started with that, and we introduced our skin swapper. So we used Maya's extensive support to Python and Mel, and we created our skin swapper, which was the first tool that we utilized to quickly change the mesh and solve that problem with the meshes that we had. So we can quickly swap the mesh, keep the same rig, and then use Maya's support for referencing. So everybody can quickly change the rig, quickly change the model, keep the rig, and that solved our problems with the mesh we had. And we can change the meshes easily. Then we upgraded the workflow even more. We adopted our asset manager. That asset manager helped us connect Maya with Unity. And what we did is we used asset manager to export all the data. We just plug in, like, we just choose what do we want to export into Unity. So is it a skin file? Is it a mesh file? Is it animation file? And it will export that to Unity, and of course it will take care of naming and of proper folder structure. So it reduces a lot of unnecessary work for us. And it also worked back and forth, so it works back in the other directions as well. So our solution for cameras and the environment were fairly similar to what we had with the characters. And yeah, when we manipulate camera inside of Maya, we attach to that camera a temporary locator file, which stores the data like camera FOV, focal length, position inside of world space, and its trajectories, and we can export that into Unity. And that way we immediately have our camera animated inside of Unity. And when we change stuff in the environment, we can immediately see if it works or not with the exported camera. So, and it works both ways. So if we see that something isn't working, we can easily change stuff inside of Unity and re-import that back into Maya as well. And we use the JSON file for that. So basically it goes like this. I mean, when you have stuff that is really repeatable inside of Unity, for example, a bunch of rocks, and if that rocks has some other property attached to it, for example, some VFX or a spell or some other gaming aspect, you just create a prefab inside of Unity, distribute it across the scene in any way you deem fit. And then you can replicate that by exporting back into Maya and have the same scene with the same populated stuff as you had in Unity. And that helps us to reduce like a lot of unnecessary stuff in our workflows. So that way, basically, we have a two-way interaction between both Maya and Unity. And yeah, that's the one aspect. This is what we also have, and this is like stuff that also reduces a great amount of unnecessary work from us. So we replicated our Unity PBR shader that we made, that we custom built for Unity. It's a mobile shader that works on mobile, PBR shader. And we replicate that shader and all of its properties inside of Maya viewport. And of course, that was a great help for us when we create our mobile games. It's a huge time saver. And if you include like stuff for texture authoring, like Substance Painter, and you use the same tech inside of Substance Painter, then you you reduce your workflows by 3 times or more. So we tried that, and it's literally like that faster. So That's the great thing with working in close relations with Unity and Autodesk. So they listen to the community, listen to devs, and they are really keen to help us solve a bunch of problems we have during creating games. And of course, we can spend less time writing tools, and we can spend more time making art look good. So yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nanan. So we know not everybody has a dev team that can build out that kind of awesome pipeline. And so the goals that were set out between Autodesk and Unity were really to try and democratize a similar workflow and a similar pipeline. And so I'd like to introduce Ons Boileau from Unity Montreal to talk about the plugin they made.
Thank you, Lawrence. It's great to be here with you today. I'll be presenting the latest improvement we are making to our FBX exporter, and then we'll take a few moments after the presentation to answer your questions. What are we trying to achieve? The round-trip FBX geometry using an artist-friendly interface and safely merge your changes back into those assets to continue your work. We want to achieve a complete workflow. We know your pains. I've been personally working on games for at least 12 years. I know how this can be painful. So we're trying to make your life easier by creating those tools. This is really our goal. And the collaboration between Autodesk and Unity is helping us achieve those goals. Originally, Unity was supporting FBX in one direction only. We had the FBX importer, so that you may already have used and you know about, but it was not enough, because yes, it was useful to import geometry, but then what happened when you want to iterate? When you want to send back information and work on it again? So it was not enough. That's why, last year, we introduced the FBX exporter. The exporter is available on the asset store. We are at our second version of it. And this is providing you with the capacity to round trip already with several features. Just a question out of curiosity. Who in the room has already used the FBX exporter? Okay. Well, I guess this presentation is going to be useful for a lot of you. Then I will go into details a bit more. The FBX exporter, we have a few important things to know. The round-trip workflow works with any application supporting FBX. But we've made a special plugin to make this even simpler. It's a one-click export-import process. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's super simple. And we've made that plugin so far for Maya, Maya LT, and 3ds Max. So I will present a short video just to show you what the exporter is actually able to do. So this is what you will be able to do using the exporter available on the store right now. This was done in Max, but it can be done in Maya as well. So you've seen, and I'll go into specific details just to highlight them, you've seen that the exporter can support hierarchies, meshes, materials, textures, and recently on the store, cameras as well. But we are working on new features. So in the next update, and actually if you're a bit experimental, you can go in our forums and have access to experimental package with those features in already. We are supporting lights, round trips, animation round trips, and node name remapping. I'll go into more detail just after this slide. A bit later this year, we are also going to make the FBX exporter as a Unity package. So you won't have to download it from the asset store. It's going to be there when you start. And we are going to support also round trip for constraints and blend shapes. So that's coming a bit later this year. Is that going to be useful? Yes. Is that something you can use? Okay. So to get into more details, the exporter will support lights with all their animated properties: intensity, spot, angle, color. Full round trip, back and forth again. Camera, already available, but it was added very recently. So all parameters like field of view, projection type, aspect ratio, focal length, near and far plane. So this will enable an artist working in Maya or Max to see the exact same point of view that someone working in Unity, for example. Now, the big feature, animation round trip. You can record animation in Unity, either using timeline, the recorder, or a script, and send that animation through FBX into Maya or Max for polishing the animation and reworking the animation, making the animation beautiful and final. Then return the animation back in Unity. Again, you can do that several times. Iteration is the core of the process. Typical use case we have for that. Let's say that a level designer is making a scene and he wants to just block out an animation, a quick and dirty animation for prototyping, and then he's able to send all that information back to an animator. Or maybe you want to record actual gameplay in the editor. You record your character running, shooting, your car racing, and you set that back to be animated to create a cinematic. That's also doable. You can record physics. For example, ragdolls, explosions, collisions, stuff that is usually difficult to animate by hand. You can record that into Unity and again send that to an animator. Or maybe you want to use already made animation on the asset store. You can use them, and if they are not totally your liking, you can tweak them and make them more beautiful. So I'll be showing you video going through all the features and the real workflow you can achieve with that new feature. So first, you record the gameplay. Here we have a scene where we play with a rocket ship, it's a race, we record, we create a clip. That clip is going to be exported, but we don't just want to export the animation. It's easier to work in context. So in this example, we'll be exporting the whole scene. All the meshes, the texture, the lights, and the camera. In this case, we have to bake the camera because we're using Cinemachine in Unity, which are procedural camera. These cannot be exported as is, we have to bake them. So, and this is almost real time. So there are some dead times, but it's to show you the real complexity or simplicity of the process. So now we're making the shot layouts, exporting geometries, and everything that will be required to work in context. Once inside Maya, and here again, this could be 3D Max, 3ds Max. It's the same thing. The artist will assemble the shot, create the context, so bring back the environment, like so, and start working on the animation. So here we may want to tweak a few curves to make this more realistic, a bit more polished. And that's exactly what the animator is doing at the moment. So once we're happy with the result, we have our, all the curves where we want them to be. We're exporting back that animation in Unity to preview the result. Again, you've seen it's a simple one click. It's super fast. And we see the end result of the modified animation. But we won't stop there. Let's create a character. So we create a character with its rig. And for that, we're just making it, exporting that information in Unity. We use a few generic walk and idle animation that we put there, so level design can iterate, or they set the scene, they're happy with the result. When they have everything in position and like they would like it to be, we're ready to export directly from timeline. Just export a track in timeline, click, and then you'll be back into Maya to do the final animation editing. So here, the artist still working in context will have the right position for the character, will be able to see the real topology of the land, adjust the animation, and that's what you'll be seeing here. The animator will fix a few positions for the ankles and the feet, make it a bit more realistic, and that's whatever you want it to be. You do whatever you want with the animation, as simple or complex as you want it to be. But it's providing the capacity to do again that round trip as often as you need it for creating a good game. So we'll export back the character into the Unity scene, and you'll see the end result where everything works very simply. Now we have the character with the updated animation. In the end, you'll see that both Unity and Maya, in this case, have the exact same representation of the world. And that's what we want to achieve, full symmetry. People will work in context, the exact same context, in both softwares. For the purpose of this exercise, we've made everything black and white in Maya, so you see the difference, but we could have the same lighting, the same texture as well. So that's for animation. The last feature I want to present today, the node name remapping. You may have run into this problem if you have been using FBX in the past. It's when round tripping, very often assets will be edited and renamed. You may have a pipeline where your artist will be sticking to a very specific naming convention, or you want to replace placeholders with different assets, and you may lose information in the process. So with the node name remapping, we're taking care of that. We're making sure that whatever you do to the original asset, change will follow without destructing the original information. And if that's not enough for you, because you have a very specific workflow, you want to work in a specific way, we are exposing our APIs to enable you to customize it and make your own process if you want to do so. So I'll go through a quick example in 10 steps to show you the full workflow of remapping assets. We start with a very simple geometry that we create in Unity. In this case, it's 3 objects. We have a bottom, a middle, and a top part. It's meant to be placeholder. It's super simple. But the designer working with this may want to add components, scripts, some audio, things that he would like very much to keep when we work with the asset. So we'll create a linked prefab to be able to export that group of model. And once in Maya, again, it could be Max, the artist will replace that very simple geometry with something a bit more final. But while doing so, like for example here, the tower is really composed in 4 different parts. The original one was only 3. Maybe we want to rename this for the actual name of the asset, like Tower 100, I don't know. If you do something like that, then you are at risk of losing the original information. But let's do it. You replace everything in Maya, and then you export it back in Unity. There, it won't show right away, because Unity will be asking you a question now. It's important for the moment that you update manually the FBX file if you're making any significant change. Because if you do it automatically, for the moment, the Unity won't know exactly what you want to remap. So if you do it manually, Unity will bring, once you do the FBX import, will bring a menu to enable you to remap exactly the assets where you want them to be. So this way, you can remap 3 parts to 5 different parts and say exactly, by using menus like this, exactly where you want your component to be attached, so you don't lose any information during the process. So after doing all this, you have a new asset ready. You have the final art in Unity. So that was the new feature about the remapping. If you want to have more information, we have another talk right in the afternoon going into more detail for the artist workflow. So I invite you to join if you're interested a little bit later. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I do want to call out one thing, and a big thanks again to the folks at Unity for really investing in this problem. The format we're using to get the data back and forth is FBX. And when we started talking to the guys at Unity and said, hey, can we do this? And they said, yeah, we want to do this, but there's some issues with FBX that are getting in the way of providing this workflow. The focus on the Autodesk side has been enabling the team at Unity to be able to contribute changes to FBX to make their workflow possible. Where this gets really cool is it's not just about Unity. These are improvements to FBX that will go into mainline FBX SDK and be available to everybody, no matter what application you use. Unfortunately, it's a bit too early to get into the details on this, but I just want to call it out. So not only is Unity providing a great new workflow, they're also helping to contribute to a data format that people use daily. So that's basically it. We have some time. We'd love to take questions. If I could have Ans and Nenad come back to the stage. And if anybody has any questions, please walk up to the mic. Tell us who you're asking the question to, and we'll happily answer them. Hi.
Just a basic question. Did you guys wind up using Shotgun much in any of this kind of shared area between Unity and the Autodesk apps?
That's a good question. Not in this particular arrangement, but there's certainly conversations happening between Shotgun and Unity in the same vein.
Hi, this is for anybody who wants to answer. Our team's using the Stingray shader for PBR materials. Is that going to still stay the same?
So great question. I'll repeat it in case people didn't hear. Will the Stingray PBR shader stay the same? Some of you may know that Stingray is no longer a game engine that Autodesk ships. The answer is yes. So we're not changing the Stingray PBR shader. It's sticking around. It's not going to be renamed because that would just create chaos. At the same time, we are looking to more future efforts towards a better PBR workflow and a set of better materials that can easily transit between game engine, renderer. So this is another effort, and this is something we'll probably talk about at SIGGRAPH timeframe. But for the time being, the Stingray PBR shader is still there. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, one more. Hey, please.
actually have a few questions.
The
Unity exporter plugin, is that available to be used through another API? Like if I want to wrap that up in some of our artist tools, is it easy to integrate with that?
We have some work in progress to make that easier, in fact. At the moment, we are documenting the API. It's already documented, but we're improving the documentation, and we're working to make that easier. That's coming soonish. I'm expecting, for people well-versed into it, it's already possible, but we have things coming, I would say, before fall that would help make that even more easy. Is that answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another question about the exporter. Can you export data along with the FBX for like initial imports into Unity? Some of the things that we do is we don't want import materials turned on by default, for example. Mm-hmm. So when we export an FBX, the first time Unity loads it, it brings in, it makes new materials, and we don't want that to happen. Is there a way, maybe through the API or something else, where we can give initial FBX import settings for Unity from Maya?
It's possible. I'm not sure I have the right answer to your question. I would need to refer to someone else in my studio. I know we're working on something to help you do that, to script. It's possible already to have some selection of what you want to export specifically, but if you want to control which folder, where it's going to appear, that will require some code that is not easy to do at the moment.
Okay. And one more about the FBX exporter. Namespace support. We right now export rigs with no namespaces for our characters. Mm-hmm. We bring them into Unity, and then we export animation typically from a reference file or in Maya. It's referencing a rig, so it's going to have a namespace. Will this support removing the namespace, or at least being able to hook up those animation clips to the rig properly inside of Unity without having to go through a process of stripping the namespaces out of all the animations?
I would need to look at your specific case. Can you, you know where the from is? Because if you have access to the from, as a question there, I'll be able to answer more specifically, because I don't have the answer for you.
Okay. No one else has any other questions. I have one more question for you about your asset manager, like how you were kind of linking Maya and Unity using an asset tool. Were you writing? Did you have like a custom tool that runs both in Maya and Unity? How do they kind of? You can give details about how they communicate. That'd be great.
Yeah. So I can tell you like more from a user perspective. And like a guy that uses the tools that were made by tech guys. So what we have, are you interested more in cameras or the assets for the environments, or both?
Just kind of like I saw that you had kind of blocks for like asset tool or something.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what will be coming with Unity now. So that's basically you have an asset manager tool. You create an asset, and then you need to apply a proper naming to it and a proper set of properties. Like, is it animation? Is it a rig file? Is it like a mesh or some other property? You just check what you are actually exporting, and it automatically takes care of the rest. Like, just export stuff in Unity, put import stuff inside of Unity scene, and then put all the stuff in proper folders. So that's basically what Hans actually was presenting, and that's what our tech guys made for our Unite demo. So that's basically what you're all getting out of the box.
Hi, is there any plans to use the FBX exporter to export the terrain height map to an actual mesh? Because at the moment you have to export it to a raw file and import it, and then use it as a displacement map to actually get it, and then import it back in as a mesh.
Do you mean a terrain created with the terrain editor inside Unity?
Right. Yeah, export that to an FBX.
Yes.
There is a plan to do that.
Yep.
Cool. Any last questions? Oh, please.
How is Unity coming on importing Olympic data?
That's a good question. We have something in the work right now. Yes. If we have something in the work for importing Alembic data, we have, in fact, an Alembic importer that is almost ready that we are just packaging very soon.
Great.
Okay, and I guess that's lunch. Thank you so much for attending.